Ring of Honor Final Battle 2025 is a wrestling show that happened, and now the baton has been passed to me to review it. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Happened on December 5th, 2025 from the Greater Columbus Convention Center as a part, of course, in Columbus, Ohio. You could probably have figured it out all by yourself. You didn't need to tell me. But for clarity's sake, I shall. Part of the GalaxyCon festivities. So, I couldn't tell you exactly how many people were there. I think it's a venue that isn't tracked by WrestleTix, so I'm not sure we're ever going to get some kind of number in that regard, because it didn't look like a packed venue. Didn't look like there were all that many people there. There was this. It looked especially dire when the Death Riders came out for their tag team match. Dan Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, of course. And when they came out, they do the panning. They didn't do a pan of the crowd, but the angle was of the camera was shooting towards the crowd, and all you could see as the guys were coming out, as both dudes were coming out, was just like rows of empty seats. I'm like, oh, that's not great. So yeah, I mean, it didn't look like a packed show. It didn't look great, but the show itself was good. It was a good little wrestling show. Look, I wouldn't call it great. I will not go and go down that road. I don't think this was a great wrestling show. I think it was I thought it was a perfectly good but unremarkable wrestling show. How about that? Couple of matches here that I do believe deserve attention. There's a couple of matches here that I truly did love, that I did think were great. But overall, I think it's a perfectly good show. I think there's, went on to the old cage match earlier today to check out how things were going on that front. I think this is an overrated show, to be perfectly honest. 8.78 is the general feeling. There's some ratings for some matches where I'm like, the cage match inmates and I did not watch the same match. And look, as much as I had a blast watching Mercedes Moné and Red Velvet, that completely over-delivered and blew away my expectations, it is not a 9 out of 10 match, which would be like a 4 and 3/4, like a 4 3/4 type of situation, right? That's the area we're in when we're around the 9s on the cage match. I mean, we might look. I'm not gonna quibble with people over quarter star ratings and whatnot. I mean, whatever floats your boat. But with the reaction that I'm seeing right now in regards to this show, I saw a lot of people calling it a banger show and whatnot. Like I said, I thought this was a perfectly good, competent wrestling show. I enjoyed myself. There were some high points, but it's an overall unremarkable show. And that really did feel like it was slapped together last minute. And I'm sorry to say, despite the fact that I don't watch Ring of Honor, most of you probably don't watch Ring of Honor. Well, that's not true. If you're listening to this, there's a fair chance that if you're listening to one guy on the internet breaking down, cards and wrestling matches, there, especially when it comes to Ring of Honor, you're listening to this Ring of Honor review, there may be a slightly above average chance that you are actually subscribed to Honor Club and you watch the weekly Ring of Honor stuff. So I don't want to minimize that. That's entirely possible. But let's be honest. Nonetheless, let's be candid with each other. No one watches Ring of Honor, and I don't watch Ring of Honor on the regular. I only watch the pay-per-views because typically they have a tendency to deliver. I didn't think this one particularly delivered. I thought it was fine. I'm okay. I thought it was good. I'm not trying to claw my eyes out and regretting the time that I spent watching it. No. There were some highlights and so on and so forth. But no one watches. And despite the fact that, and circling back to the point that I was making, despite the fact that nobody watches and that I don't watch, I even felt like this show was slapdash, was hastily put together. There's everything was built within this week, right? Except maybe for a couple of exceptions, like like the pure tag team, the pure women's title tournament. It's not a tag team. Just, that clearly was not, hastily put together. That was, it was cursed. It's a cursed tournament. Don't get me wrong, but they eventually got through it. And I think like that. I think this is a show that suffered because of it. I think it's a show that suffered because of that, because of the fact that everything, like even if you're not plugged in, and most of us aren't, you could still feel the quickly taped together show where there's just stuff happening here, and you're like, oh, Eddie Kingston and Josh Woods was added to the show. Oh, really? Okay. All right then. Okay, sure. And I mean, that's like ultimately, like, this is the big picture thought that I'm leading this review with, is just the state of Ring of Honor, right? It's this, like, Tony gets on his media calls, and then people ask about the deal, and then he keeps talking about, I want to find the right deal, and so on and so forth, right? And I can't help but wonder, quite honestly, who asks these questions in earnest? Well, I mean, look, from a journalistic point of view, it's a good question to ask, right? You're going on a Ring of Honor media call. You're going to ask, hey, so do you have an update on this media deal that you've been working on, since ever since Copernicus found out that the Earth was revolving around the sun and not the other way around? And it's a legitimate question to ask. But on the other hand, I'm legitimately wondering who wants to know, like within wrestling fans today, who really wants to know if Ring of Honor is going to be on television? And ultimately, will it be a good thing if it ends up on television? What will it bring more to the table right now in a market which you could argue is saturated? Because on top of it all, on top of the market saturation that we're living in right now in regards to professional wrestling, the way Tony Khan has handled the perception of Ring of Honor via AEW programming over the past couple of years has completely diminished the brand, right? You have the Ring of Honor world champion, and I know other people have made arguments about this, and personally, like, I'm so detached from Ring of Honor, I don't care. I'm just bringing it up here to to exemplify my point. You have the Ring of Honor world champion, a world champion, mind you, of Ring of Honor, a storied, respected world title, right? In a tag team in AEW, and on the times that his tag team loses, well, he's the guy eating the pins. The one time we see a Ring of Honor title defense on television, or at least, the interim title stuff where they merged both belts back together, the first Red Velvet Mercedes Moné match, well, Red Velvet loses. So, and this is like throughout. You can go back to Mark Briscoe's World Championship run and so on and so forth. Ring of Honor is absolutely treated like WWE treats NXT. It's the tertiary brand. It's developmental. Look, they're lauded women's world champion, right? The anchor upon which everyone who backs Ring of Honor, who loves Ring of Honor, they all turn to Athena, right? How great Athena is and how tremendous she is, what a great champion, and so on and so forth. Even her, she goes on AEW television and she cannot score a win. She can't win any big match when she goes to AEW. And I've talked about this on the podcast. I've talked about this on stream and whatnot. Athena can't get the job done in AEW. The way she's booked right now is she's too good to be in Ring of Honor, but not good enough to be on the main show, with the true all stars, right? The true cream of the crop of professional wrestling, the women's division of All Elite Wrestling, in the TK verse, of course. That's where she's not good enough to be there, but she's too strong for a Ring of Honor. Like, that's the story they're telling with her, ultimately. And despite the fact that she has this legendary reign that everyone keeps talking about every single time, like how untouchable it is and whatnot, and how great it is. And despite all of that, she shows up on AEW television and she'll lose. It doesn't matter. A Ring of Honor doesn't matter. And it has nothing to do with what the other points that I have, where I typically say, well, what's the point of being the 1,000+ day champion of a promotion that nobody watches? Who cares? Right? That's even aside from that point. The point is that, let's say in kayfabe, let's say you buy the kayfabe. Let's say you're completely into it, right? And you truly see the Athena 1,000 day championship as this the Ring of Honor women's title world championship as this extremely remarkable affair. How can you be satisfied then by her showing up on AEW and just losing? Losing and not even making a big deal out of it. It's like, well, Toni Storm put Athena away. Athena lost. Athena got pinned in the women's tag team tournament, so Mercedes Moné and her got kicked out because Athena got pinned. Like, Athena gets pinned all the time. She does the Owen Hart tournament. She loses in the first round. And this is your women's world champion in Ring of Honor, arguably the only star that Ring of Honor has, and who has this 1,000+ day reign, which is like the greatest thing ever, if I'm always supposed to believe what I read on social media. And she can't get a win on AEW. So all of this to say, and this is not a knock on Athena, because I want to underscore the fact that I think Athena is a very good pro wrestler. Like, this is not a thing where I'm trying to trash her. She's a very, very good pro wrestler. The point here is that Tony Khan doesn't care about Ring of Honor, because anything Ring of Honor related on AEW, or that crosses over, is just diminished. It has no value, and that's how it's treated, and that's how it is perceived. And so I wonder, like, even if Tony Khan gets a TV deal that suits him, that makes him happy, or whatever his weird reasons for not having a TV deal are just yet, why he doesn't have a TV deal just yet, whatever those reasons are, he diminished the brand. It's not even exciting to think about Ring of Honor on TV anymore, because the brand is neglected. It's been, it's been treated as second rate for such a long time now. Like, I don't even know what kind of viewership he would get putting Ring of Honor on, getting a media deal for Ring of Honor. I don't know what kind of viewership they would get, because he has trained his viewing, like the built-in audience that he'd have for Ring of Honor, i.e. the AEW audience, has all been trained at this point to believe that Ring of Honor is second rate. So, I where am I going with all of this, right? And quite frankly, I'm sort of wondering what initiated all this talk. Well, I know it's me, but where exactly I was coming from and all that. I think the point here that I'm trying to make is that this Final Battle show feels exactly how Ring of Honor is treated in the TK verse, as a lot of us like to call it. It's a show that felt just put together, a bunch of people thrown into a main event, because we never built a proper challenger for Bandito, a super popular Ring of Honor champion, mind you, a guy that AEW fans love. We weren't able to build anything. We weren't able to make any proper crossovers, whatnot, because Tony was bullied by all of the fucking weirdos on Twitter that it was so confusing to have Ring of Honor belts on AEW, right? So he stopped doing that because he's trying to appeal to the worst people on television. Not on television, on social media. So the show is a representation of all of that. It's I find like this final battle is exactly what Ring of Honor is. A good promotion with good little matches, but there's nothing to sink your teeth into. No one cares. Oh, look at that. Blake Christian comes out with an ice cream cone mask in the shape of Bandito's mask. Wow. Yeah, but who cares? Like, it doesn't. Was there a feud there? Was there something? Was there really some animosity? I don't know. None of this. It doesn't matter. And I can feel that disinterest, and that disinterest feeds me into my own disinterest, if that makes sense. I mean, I will watch Ring of Honor pay-per-views because, like I said, those are typically good, even great. We've had some great Ring of Honor pay-per-views this year. So, more likely than not, I'm going to have a good time watching a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. So I don't mind, But I think like I, considering the fact that I considered that this was a good, not great pay-per-view, is exactly it's an embodiment of how Ring of Honor is treated so far. I think that that's my main overarching umbrella thought here to cover the rest of the review here, because I don't think there's a lead. I don't other than that. I don't think there's necessarily something we absolutely have to start talking about. Let's just go with we'll break down the show in order of the matches as they appeared, starting with the 0 hour pre-show, starting off with the Outrunners defeating the Premier Athletes, of course, Ari Daivari and Tony Nese, accompanied to the ring by Mark Sterling and Story Denali, who I think we're all very curious to see just how far this project with Story Denali is going to go, because she has size. She's tremendous, but it's like, in the storied history of AEW, there have been multiple big men in this company. And Tony Khan has never quite understood or knew exactly how to go about booking them. Will she be the exception? Well, we'll have to find out. I mean, look, I don't have many thoughts about this match. I thought it was fun. It was a good fan favorite opener with the Outrunners trying to land their spots, their crowd favorite spots, the "you son of a bitch" and all of that, and the Premier Athletes doing just great mid-card heel work. Like, they're fantastic. It's for what they have to do in this company, they're outstanding. They really are great. I enjoy like, pound for pound. If you were to compare, because there's okay, let me rephrase this in another way that I haven't actually started phrasing this, but I'm gonna reset nonetheless. Think about, like, on this roster, there are two teams that serve the same purpose, right? The Premier Athletes and the Frat House. They're interchangeable in the sense that they're lower card heels that are just meant to be like obnoxious and, over the top heelish, so that when it's time for them to fight a babyface team, the babyface team gets a satisfying win, right? That they're jabronis, but their presentation is supposed to add to the heat, right? I'll take the Athletes over the fucking Frat House any day of the week. I'll take these guys over Jacked Jameson on my television any fucking hour of the day. This was, yeah, it was fun. We're not revolutionizing the world of professional wrestling here, tag team wrestling or whatever. What did I give this? I think I gave this like 3 stars, right? I jotted down 3 stars. Yeah, it's just a fine, fun match that got the crowd into it. Layla Gray defeated Zeta Steele I heard that the live broadcast had technical difficulties when this happened. And because I didn't watch the pre-show live. And when I got around, so when I heard that happen, I was like, oh, isn't that convenient that the match which Warren Hayes believes has the potential to be an absolute dreck somehow has technical difficulties. Oh, the conspiracy hat goes on. Who booked this match, but then got cold feet and was like, oh, well, we'll just pretend we're having technical difficulties. No, that's not what happened. I watched the match earlier today, where I'm recording this on the Saturday. So I watched it this morning, having a nice cup of tea. And you know what? This was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. The last time I saw Zeta Steele, she was in Marigold and she stunk. Now, I'm not sitting here and telling you suddenly that Layla Gray is, this phenomenal athlete, this revelatory pro wrestler. No. And I'm not saying that Zeta Steele is going to tear the house down either. But in fairness, she has improved tremendously. And I thought Layla Gray held herself well here too. Of course, this was mostly a showcase of Zeta Steele. Like she got a lot of shine in the match, got to flex a lot of her stuff. It had a tryout feel. And all Layla Gray had to do was eat some bumps and then land her finisher properly, which she did. Ian Riccoboni was calling her a blue chip prospect. I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but Zeta Steele is definitely not as bad as the last time I saw her. I saw nothing of her WWE ID stuff. Like, I think she was on Evolve for a little while. The ID Evolve. Look, I have no idea, but I'm like, okay, I think there's something there. But I'm not going to start jumping up and down and telling you all like she's the next big thing, but she's not a complete lost cause as the first few times I saw her in Marigold, where I was like, who is this person? What is she doing? She needs a career redirection bad type of thing. No, I think there's something there. I think there's something good to this. So I wouldn't be upset if Zeta Steele showed back up on more TK verse stuff. Anyway, Layla Gray got the win. Layla Gray, there's something just off-putting enough for me to be like, and I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about her. There's something about how she carries herself. I don't know, now I'm not completely dismissing her, but yeah, I don't know. I can't, like I said, I can't quite put my finger on it. Yeah, but she's far from being like my go-to. Let's put it that way. She was fine here. Nothing out of the ordinary. I gave this 3 stars as well. I thought both of them worked hard. I thought this was a good base match. It's like not much negative to say about it. We get a backstage segment with Sammy Guevara, the Beast Mortos, and Hechicero. God damn it, we got a lot of Sammy Guevara on this fucking show. Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that sooner than later. Then Ace Austin defeated Lee Johnson. I liked this match. I thought it was a lot of fun. Athletic, hard-hitting. Austin looks great. Jesus, the size of this man's thighs is absolutely preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. But Ace was definitely in his element. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 3 1/4 star. And then the final match of the pre-show was Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta defeating the Grizzled Young Veterans. This was a blast. I thought this was very good. Great exhibition of tag team wrestling from both guys, right? Just lots of great tag team double team moves. The JYV in control until Garcia shoves James Drake off the top rope, and then Drake was wedged between the steps for a drop kick, which was, effectively killed him for the rest of the match, which allowed then the Death Riders to double team Zach Gibson. Garcia, clipped him, took out his knee, and then Yuta hit a Busaiku knee for the win. Just tremendous stuff. Look, I like this so much. It's a 3 3/4 star match for me. And I was like, wow, this is the pre-show. Let's go. Now we're building to something. This is awesome. I was so stoked. And it's one of these matches where, again, I'm like, oh yeah, the JYV are kind of employed by AEW, but also not. And this, I believe, is the second appearance that they've had on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. The second in a row is what I'm trying to say. I think, right? And you could prove me wrong, folks, but I think like the last time they were on TKVerse television, or maybe they were on a Collision or something. I think it was, I think I might be mistaken. They might have been on a Collision previously. And both times I remember having the reaction where they're like, these guys are so much better than when Tony Khan was introducing them to, AEW. They were showing up on AEW and they were having these humdrum, ho-hum matches. And then they disappeared for a while. Then they became regulars in Deadlock Pro. And now they've been showing back up in AEW, and they have like a fire. It's a completely different team than when they had come in after being released or not renewed by WWE. I'm like, okay, like just add them on full time. These guys, there's something going on here. They're into it. They're very, very good. And I thought they were, they were quite good in Deadlock Pro, but they've been particularly good on these TV matches. So good for them. And hopefully, look, more of these guys, I will take any day of the week. So that leads us to the main card. We have Jon Moxley, who was on commentary, came in on commentary during the Death Rider tag team match that we just talked about. And Mox stuck around for a couple of matches, so he was here for a little while, including for the opener, which was the tournament final of the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Championship. That doesn't make sense, Warren. Deonna Purrazzo defeated Billie Starkz to win the inaugural title. I thought this was pretty good, actually. Thought this was good, super solid. You can tell that Deonna was completely in her element. That was. I think this was the whole story here. Billie was forced early on to use one of her rope breaks. They made a big deal out of it when Deonna used her first rope break. Commentary mentioned, I think it was Caprice Coleman who said that Riccoboni, this is the first rope break that Deonna Purrazzo has ever used in any pure match of all time ever. And it's like, whoa, and yeah, woo. And I thought Mox was doing a good job, hyping these women up. I think some people had some issues with how Mox was sounding and what he was saying. They thought he was a little rambling. He was looking for his words in a couple of occasions. I don't think he was as slick as he sometimes is. Maybe it was just a question of chemistry of working with Riccoboni and Caprice, whereas some of the more memorable times that Mox has been on commentary, JR was around, and Excalibur, and people that he's been hanging around maybe longer, knows better, could be a lot of things. But yeah, look, Starkz here had to use a lot of outside forces. She had to use the steps. She had to do like her senton off of the she had to do her senton off the apron to sort of even the playing field. She couldn't. I think the story that we're trying to tell here is that Billie Starkz wasn't adept enough to be to beat a true pure style wrestler in a wrestling ring. She had to use devices and whatnot. Starkz hits a swan dive towards the end, but Purrazzo rolls it up into a crucifix and transitions into a double arm bar, and she starts the Venus de Milo is what she calls it, and then she starts giving Billie knee strikes to her head, and Billie has no more rope breaks at this point, so she's got no choice. She just got knocked loopy with knees to the head while both arms are completely trapped. She just gave up. And Deonna Purrazzo is your winner, which is a good choice. I think she makes a lot of sense in this circumstance. Plus, they'll give Deanna something to do, who has been inactive for a long, long time. So good for her. I would give this 3.5 stars, right? Yeah, 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I thought this was solid. I thought it was good work and was very good work by Billy Starks. Lee Moriarty defeated Nigel McGuinness in a 30-minute Iron Man match that ended in sudden death overtime. This was fantastic. This is absolutely one of the two best matches of the night. I think it's kind of bar none. It's really funny because Mox is on commentary to start this one off. And he's talking about tape trading throughout this match. Like, he's talking about how there's certain matches, you needed to go around. You had to know a guy who knew a guy if you want to see certain matches. And it's one of the holy grails that we had, or something like that, was a tape, was the tape of a match between Nigel McGuinness and Johnny Saint. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we are like, and I'm like, we're completely nerding out here on this pay-per-view, on this show, on commentary, live. And the only reason John couldn't get to the bottom of his thought here, because I think he was leading to something, is because there was like a pinfall attempt or whatever. And that's the only thing that kept Mox from not finishing whatever he had going in regards to a Nigel McGuinness tape, with fighting while he was fighting Johnny Saint. So, but look, to the match itself, look, I thought this was tremendous. Legitimately a great grappling match of wrestling and counter wrestling, mat wrestling, and I thought it was done extremely well. They really did take the time with this whole 30 minutes to really build to a dramatic climax. I was surprised at how much this didn't feel like I didn't feel the 30 minutes in it, right? And, Nigel is working Moriarty's arm, right? The shoulder, the arm, that's what he's going for. And he is twisting it. He is pulling at it. He's really stretching the hell out of the arm. And Moriarty is doing a fantastic job at selling the arm. I think at some point, commentary says that arm is probably just hanging by, a thread or whatever, by some ligaments. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, the way he was selling it was, you were like, no, it's just going to fall off at some point. It was remarkable. And the thing that I really liked about it is that Moriarty was in charge in this match, and he was going for it and was in control. He was winning as far as pins go. He was absolutely in control. And we're getting towards like the we're getting around 5 minutes remaining type of thing, right? And Moriarty is leading like 3-1 at this point, right? Nigel had tapped out of a Border City stretch like really early on, like within the first 3 minutes or so, 4 minutes. And he had tapped out immediately, right? And then commentary puts over the fact that was a strategic tap out, so that he wouldn't have to endure being in that for too long, so that he could stay fresh for the rest of the match. And I'm like, you see, that's fucking great. See, this is what we're missing in fucking pro wrestling in 2025. I don't need more candy canes wrapped in barbed wire. What I need more is this, like, stories being told in a match, things that make sense, things that you're like, aha, okay. We're having like a veteran, a man who has been up and down this road multiple times, who is a figure in Ring of Honor history to be a master at this type of, chess game. And they use the chess analogy multiple times in this match, but they're like putting this over. They're like, okay, this is a great story beat. So that was Lee's first, that was his first point. His second point comes when he rolls up Nigel, gets a flash pin. Nigel fights back. He gets the London Dungeon on. And then shortly thereafter, he tries it again on Moriarty. And Moriarty then rolls Nigel up. for a pinfall, avoiding the dungeon on that attempt. So we're at 3-1 for Moriarty. And I'm noticing this like at 5 minutes to go. And I'm like, okay, we have the potential here to do something really cool. We have the potential to do something really, really cool. We have the potential here to truly like give Lee Moriarty a hell of a boost where he's like, he gets into cruise control at some point and is just staving off attacks from Nigel. And Lee wins a decisive win over Nigel McGuinness. Not something where it's like it's, you know what I mean? Like a 3-1 victory. And the rest of the match is Lee Moriarty dazzling us with his counter wrestling, like outsmarting one of the greatest to ever do it, the technical wrestling stuff. Nigel McGuinness, right, when he was in his prime, practically untouchable. Mox was putting it over big time on top of that. Like, and then you have Lee Moriarty who's just outsmarting him at every given moment. And I'm like, we have the opportunity to do something really cool. Look, if you want to give Nigel another pin, go right ahead. Add just a little flair, a little drama. But man, when Lee was on his back doing the Antonio Inoki stuff that commentary had pointed out, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is cool. Like Lee is just going to he's going to roll around on his back and he's going to stave off, using his legs, of keeping Nigel from getting into a grappling position, getting any leverage on him. But no, we had to go down the exact route that every fucking kind of this type of situation always seems to call for, where it's like, no, now we're going to go for a series of flash pins and flash submissions. And then we're going to have outside interference on top of that on a match, which the entire drama stayed completely away from any nonsense. There was this one moment where Shane Taylor steps between Nigel and Lee when they're on the floor. And, the distraction of Shane Taylor allows Moriarty to get the upper hand on Nigel. I was like, okay, we don't really need this, but all right. But then the straight right from Shane Taylor, knocking out Nigel, allowing Lee to get the last pin to get to a draw. Because Nigel, maybe I should walk us through it here. In the final 2 minutes, this is what happens. This is all that happens within the last 2 minutes, okay? Nigel reverses out of a Border City stretch into a pin. So he gets an extra point. We're at 3-2. Then Nigel gets another pin after a collision. He gets another point. Now I know also at this point, Moriarty's starting to panic. He's lost his cool, okay? So I understand what's going on. Again, I understand the story that they're telling here at this point. I get it. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. Lee's losing his cool, so that's creating all of these opportunities for Nigel to get all these flash pins. Because after they tie it up 3-3, Nigel rolls up Lee, who's if I remember correctly, he's arguing with Shane Taylor on the floor. And he's telling Shane Taylor to fucking cool down. And Nigel rolls him up to take the lead 4-3. But then Nigel, in the position that he's in, allows Shane Taylor to knock him out. And Lee immediately gets on him to tie the score at 4-4, right at double zeros. And the referee is counting just a little faster to make sure that he fits into those last few seconds there. It was a photo finish, folks, let me tell you. And I'm like, groan. I'm like, this kind of sucks. And now we're going to go to overtime, right? I'm like, of course we're going to go to overtime. And Moriarty gets on the mic and he's like, hey, let's do overtime. Are we doing overtime? And then the referee okays it and then we do it. And I'm like, why isn't this just like a rule now? Just make it a rule. Who gives, there's always this shit about, let's do overtime. And then it gets the crowd, it's supposed to get the crowd into it. Anyway. Regardless, that's not even my main issue. And then the overtime is this, all it is flash pin attempts, roll-ups, cradles, schoolboys, jackknife pins. That's all it is. That's all it is for like an extra, minute 30 or 2 minutes, however long it was. And I'm like, oh, really? This is how we're going to end it? Like, it's so extremely unsatisfying because it completely removed me from the really cool story that they were telling into the match. This overtime didn't feel like it jived with the rest of the show, the rest of the match, excuse me, where it really was counter wrestling and trying to slip the other guy into a move and that he just can't get out of or that he's stuck in. Why not just go for submissions? We completely abandoned Moriarty's arm at this point. Why didn't Nigel work on the arm more? Why didn't he go for the arm? It was just like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I swear, folks, like it took me out of the match. Like the finish and the overtime, it kind of deflated the whole thing for me, because we truly had a Lee Moriarty who was shining at every move that he was doing. He was showing stuff that a lot of us who followed him in his career on the indies saw, and that had, and we were all, while he was on the indies, we were all going, why isn't this kid signed yet? He is tremendous. He's going to be a star, right? And he's been in AEW for a while, or in the TK verse, right? Hasn't quite lived up to that potential yet. It's all a question of opportunities, if you ask me. And he had this opportunity here to come across like a stud, like a true up and coming star with a spectacular performance against one of the all-time greats, right? But we had to, I don't know, we had to story it up. We had to make it like the tropey wrestling finish where the babyface, because Lee's supposed to be a heel, but he doesn't seem to be enjoying his association with Shane Taylor Productions anymore, and there's some tension there. He's always arguing with Taylor and whatnot, so it is what it is. But, we were supposed to get behind the babyface here, which is Nigel, but Lee was so great. And I sincerely think we missed an opportunity for a truly bold decision to have Lee go up over Nigel in a dominant fashion. And I'm not just sitting here being deflated because my little bit of fantasy booking that I had created in my brain as I'm watching the match didn't come to fruition. I think my idea is better. I think my idea is better than whatever they did, but I'm not poo-pooing it because they didn't do my idea. I'm poo-pooing it because it's tropey, because I've seen this it feels like thousands of times before, and I'm like, oh, of course we're doing the Flash comeback. Now again, I'm not dumb. I understand the story that they were telling, and it's that Lee got rattled. I understand the story, but the story would have been so much better if it had been Lee kept his fucking cool and Nigel started making mistakes. And the one thing that really annoyed me towards the end, when Nigel was still was 2 points behind, Nigel showed no sense of urgency. You had Mox on commentary going, come on, Nigel, you got to go, tear his head off. It's like Mox is like, we need some grit here. But these whole sequences at the end with Nigel, no sense of urgency from old McGinnis here. No feeling of, oh Christ, I've only got like 3 minutes left. Because don't forget, Nigel came up 3 points within 2 minutes, but there was no sense of urgency. I also understand, again, I'm not a dummy. I understand that Nigel, he's typically a cool, calm, collected character. He's a thinking man's wrestler. I understand that. But I think that even being a thinking man's wrestler. You can have a little snap, a little urgency, a little desperation develop in what you're doing. And that would have sold me a lot more on the finish that we got. Because it just felt like it was Nigel doing business as usual and Lee Moriarty was just coming undone, which I really didn't like because Lee was in control. Lee was as cool, calm, and collected for the vast majority of the match as Nigel was. Look, that's the story they told. We got to live with it. I think my idea would have been better, but this is what we got. So instead of this being maybe a 4.5 star match, a 4 3/4 star match, maybe, I'm ambivalent. I'm somewhere between a 4 and the 3 3/4. I'm like, I don't even know if I think I'm going to give it a 4 because it really was great. I think the wrestling truly was great in this, but it could have been so much better. Like it's an unenthusiastic 4 stars that I'm giving this match because it could have been so much more emotional. It could have been so much more like I feel like this is a missed opportunity. What we got was tremendous, great wrestling, and a truly excellent showing from Lee Moriarty. But it came close, but it ultimately came up short of being a breakout moment for Lee Moriarty. Those are my thoughts on this. Otherwise, super duper match, which you should, I believe, nonetheless, go out of your way to see. I think this is a recommended match. It was really, really good. But man, I was really disappointed with the finish. I was super disappointed with the finish. Red Velvet defeated Mercedes Moné to become the Ring of Honor Women's World Television Champion. Just completely beating the odds. I like it. I'm completely into it. Look, this is the match of the night. This is the best match that this show had. It was so much fun. And look, I knew that we were going to get a good match because the Dynamite match that they had, it turns out I was really high on it. I knew I felt like I was going to be one of the higher than a lot of people on the match that they had to do the unification of the titles, right? I figured that I would be on the high side of it, right? But it turns out that a lot of people really, really didn't quite care for the match or didn't like it quite as much as I did. I thought it was tremendous because it had so much fire. There was so much dislike and animosity, right? When Red Velvet came to the ring on Dynamite, she just beeline for Mercedes and got right up into her face. I think she pie-faced her, and it was it's like they weren't waiting for the pleasantries. They weren't waiting for the ceremony to. No. These two women were ready to go, and I was rubbing my hands together. I was like, I hope they bring that same vibe here, and they did. They really did. There's this great chemistry that exists between Velvet and Moné that I kind of regret that we're not going to see more of because Red Velvet's been relegated to Ring of Honor. There's really something super fun between these two here, and they work super well off of each other. And this match was really hard hitting with some tremendous moves, big top rope moves. Red Velvet doing shit that I don't even know exactly how to explain. Hang on, let me pull out my notes here. I think I tried to write down what she was doing. Okay, here. No, that's not it. That's not the match. No, that's not the match either. I'm all over the place. Yeah, she's doing she does these springboard avalanche flips from the top rope where it's just they're spinning into the air and Mercedes is falling flat on her back, and I'm like, holy fuck! This rules. This was really, really good and had intensity. It had great pace, and the finish. This is what I wrote here: huge avalanche code red type from a tombstone position. I can't even get it. You know, I'm like, I'm trying to write down stuff and I'm like, I can't put sentences together. I'm like, huge avalanche code red type from tombstone position on turnbuckle. That's what I'm writing. Like, it was innovative, creative, stuff that we don't see often. Red Velvet, passionate, fiery. Mercedes doing what she does best. Look, Mercedes is a great pro wrestler. And if she's, so, you know, it's like you should be able to have a good to great match with a woman like Mercedes Moné because she will general through the match, right? If Red Velvet is able to take this opportunity and create what she did in this match, I think there's legitimate cause for people to take a step back and now watch Red Velvet's career more closely. Maybe it's time to get Red Velvet out of Ring of Honor, away from the dregs, and start putting her back on Collision and Dynamite, and have her sort of stack up against some of the top women in the women's division of AEW and see how she fares moving forward. Or were these two matches just Mercedes Moné flukes? Which is possible because it's fucking Mercedes Moné. But if she turns around, she being Red Velvet, and then she enters a program with Layla Gray, well, I mean, we're not helping her cause here. We're not helping her improve. Red Velvet, it felt like she had something to prove. It felt like she knew all eyes were on her and that people had discounted her already. I had. Like, I was looking forward to this match, but I was like, there's no way she's winning. There's no way she's getting the accolade here, and she did. Maybe it's time. Maybe she'll be the one to finally dethrone Athena, and I'd be okay with that. At this point, I want to see Athena and Red Velvet. I am more into Red Velvet's upcoming matches than I have ever been in the history of her career. And I saw her, do a wine tasting summit with Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes. And to me, that was the highlight of the Red Velvet experience in AEW. So yeah, look, this was tremendous. It was tremendous. And for me, it's the match of the night. I gave it 4.25 stars. I think it was great. I thought it was a legitimate, great match that everyone should watch. Punchy, fiery. How long was this match? Hang on a second, because it didn't people will say it didn't overstay its welcome. I thought it was perfectly timed for everything they had to do. 13 minutes 44 according to Cage Match. Perfect. And the women occupied that space with just a great in-ring story. I love this match. Now, Cage Match is giving it a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to quibble over quarter stars, okay? I think it's a little high. I think it might be a little bit on the high side. That being said, it was tremendous, and it's a recommended match as well. These were two back-to-back great matches, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, okay. Now we're getting into the Ring of Honor pay-per-view vibe. Now I'm excited. Now I can't wait for the rest. Well, Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos defeated Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington, and Adam Priest to win the vacant Ring of Honor World Championship titles after Roosh suddenly injured his knee. Oh, and his brother. Wow. My goodness. Just so sudden. I don't know. Who could have seen this coming? Yeah, I thought I didn't think much about this match. I thought it was, I was annoyed by this match. This is what I wrote. Do you want to read I'll read you my notes verbatim, okay? At least this one had a few more coherent sentences than, on the top rope, he's doing flips, turnbuckle and tombstone. For some reason, I'm annoyed by this match. Probably because how much they played up liking Beast Mortos over Sammy Guevara, and the crowd, because of that, didn't get behind the real baby faces, and that went bad. was bad. My handwriting stinks. Yeah. I was super annoyed with this match. And I'm super, look, I can't stand Sammy Guevara, okay? And this is a personal thing. I can't stand Sammy Guevara, not even in a oh, he's a good heel type of situation. No, like, go away, Sammy Guevara. Anyway, I can't stand him. At least he's in a heel spot where I can justify fully with everyone being unable to stand him. At least they're not trying to make him a babyface again. Like, he's naturally unlikable, okay? So kudos to this creative here instead of, trying to make something that isn't there. But I legitimately mean this. I don't think this was necessarily planned where, the crowd naturally dislikes Sammy Guevara, but everyone likes Beast Mortos. I'm sorry to say, like, he's supposed to be a heel, but everyone loves Beast Mortos. So they're doing the thing. Well, you've probably watched the pay-per-view, but they're doing the thing where, one guy stands in front of the audience and extends his arms. And if it's, if it's the babyface cheers. And if it's the heel boos, right? But they do that with Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos, who are on the same team, to establish, so Sammy goes like this and people go boo. And then Beast Mortos does it and they go yay. And they do this like 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, this is dumb. This is the heel team. Don't ask people to cheer for Mortos. Because in the meantime, you've got Billington and Priest. And, as much as I fucking love this team, they're not exactly the epitomes of charisma themselves, right? And they got practically no reaction when they came out. So you're completely burying the baby faces on this one, right? And they do this a few times in the match, and Sammy Guevara is trying to, he's playing up the crowd a lot to get tons of heat, and the match turns out to be nothing. The match turns out to be a big old zilch. Again, something that annoys me because I was excited to see Billington and Priest go at it again because I love both of these wrestlers and I think it's a really intriguing pairing. It's really intriguing to put these two guys in a tag team and I want to see them fucking fuck shit up because that's what they do. But this was essentially just like a heat segment for Sammy Guevara, and I think the antics that he and Beast Mortos did completely removed all the heat off of the actual baby faces in the match because no one cared. The audience ended up not caring, but there was nothing to care about. This match was nothing. 2 3/4 stars from me, and I was super duper annoyed. Now I can understand since Beast Mortos and Sammy Guevara were pulling double duty on this show. I can understand that. Maybe in this match, they were like, well, we're not going to go too hard because we're going to be like in the semi-main event, right? I can appreciate that. What I have trouble not appreciating, though, is having Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos pull double duty. Like I don't think Ring of Honor is that hard up, or the TK verse, I don't think is all that hard up for bodies to put on a wrestling show. I from what I understand, the roster is fairly large. The amount of wrestlers accessible to Tony Khan to put on either of his shows is rather large. I think it was fine. It would have been fine if another tag team had won the tag titles or if 2 other guys had been in the main event. Anyway, this was not a good sign. Coming out of 2 really exciting matches, I was really let down here. Eddie Kingston defeated Josh Woods. This was a good little match. I gave it 3 stars. It's a gentleman's 3 type of situation. Josh Woods is working the arms. Eddie does some superplexes. Does a superplex, I should say. Woods does a chaos theory and DDT for Eddie to win. I think he might. Does this mean that he's retiring the Hurricane, the spinning back fist, and that he's transitioning to a DDT? I don't know. He calls out Samoa Joe here, again, it wasn't Eddie's greatest performance. I'm I don't know how Eddie and Joe are gonna look like on Dynamite this week. I don't know what it's gonna look like. There's no denying that live audiences love Eddie Kingston, and there's a lot to love when it comes to Eddie Kingston. But Eddie was already touch and go as far as his in-ring performances go when he was healthy. Now that he's come back from a pretty big injury and he seems to be a lot more limited, I don't know what I don't know what Eddie Kingston moving forward is going to look like. I think he's got like there was no reason for him to go overboard in a throwaway match against Josh Woods, right? Where you're just like, you want to talk about a match that was just thrown together on this fucking card. Here you go, right? And he being Eddie, is probably going to dial it up a couple of notches because it's Samoa Joe on the flagship show of the company. One would assume he'll crank it up, but do we have any guarantees of that? No, we don't. To me, like, I haven't seen enough Eddie doing single stuff right now to really like get a complete view on how he is now in a post-injury world. We'll just see. Shane Taylor Promotions defeated the Sky Flight to retain the ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Championship. This was okay. It's like, I don't know. Darius Martin is babyface in peril for most of the match, and I think the more that this is moving forward, Darius Martin has to move away from Dante Martin has to move away from Darius Martin. He has to move away from Darius. Dante has still a lot of upside. He's extremely athletic. I think, and his brother seems to be slipping. I don't know. I don't even think like Scorpio Sky did a ton in this match either. Like, Darius ate most of the shit. Big hot tag to Dante, and every live wrestling crowd loves to watch Dante Martin. But Dante has a great sequence of dives and springboards in this match. And then the seconds attack each other, like Layla Gray and Trisha Dora attack each other. And then Anthony Ogogo and Christopher Daniels. I forget that Anthony Ogogo is part of Shane Taylor Productions. Anyway, Shane Taylor straight rights Darius, and Carly Bravo rolls him up for the win. And just a bang average 2 3/4 star, nothing to it match. I don't know what to tell you. Ricochet defeated Dalton Castle to retain the AEW National Championship on his very first defense. I don't have many notes here. I gave it 3 1/4 star. I think both guys worked really hard. Dalton played the hits, did his thing with the boys and whatnot, and Ricochet looked good, but just uninspired work that just didn't get to another level. It's fine. It's uninspired work, but it's good. It's good enough. It's good enough to be like 3 1/4 star, but I'm not. We'll never think of this again. Type of thing. It's like we will never remember this. The finish wasn't bad. Where Dalton Castle is starting to suplex Ricochet all over the place. On the apron, on the floor, in the ring. But Spirit Gun, and Ricochet gets the win. I've got nothing. It's just a competently done, entertaining match. That's it. We will never speak of again. Bandito retained the Ring of Honor World Championship in a survival of the fittest match against Blake Christian, Sammy Guevara, Beast Mortos, Hechicero, and Commander. And this was a big old mess. and not in the fun kind, like in the annoying kind, the annoying type of mess. I thought this was going to be like the entertaining type of mess that you get like in Lucha Libre, especially with the guys that were in here. Commander, Bandito, Beast Mortos, Blake Christian, Hechicero. Like, these are all high level excellent, like high flyers, and 4 out of those 5s are actual luchadors. So I was like, this, and Blake Christian has wrestled these types of people all over the world. It's fine. It's like, yeah, let's go. Like, let's have ourselves a good old lucha party match. But no, instead, we get Sammy Guevara doing his heat gimmick again. The same thing he was doing earlier on in the tag team tournament. He starts doing that again with Hechicero, with Beast Mortos. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I understand, Sammy, you're happy to be back on, pay-per-view and doing relevant things. I understand you're happy. Maximize the time that you have on television, etc., etc. He calls himself everyone's favorite pillar. He understands. He knows what's going on. But I thought that was too much. It distracts. It takes away. It's dumb. It's really dumb. Hechicero, Beast Mortos, him, they're all supposed to be heels. It's completely throwing off the psychology. He did it in the tag team match, and he's doing it here again. Anyway, the usual things that annoy me with these multi-man matches happened, and particularly one where like someone gets, like Bandito, who again is the world champion. He gets laid out, and not by, nefarious, like disgusting means, like, eating an ice pick to the eye or something like that. I might be going a little hard here, but like getting like a big chair shot or whatever. He just like gets normally laid out, and then he's out of the match at the start, like for what feels like 60 hours. I'm like, okay, Bandito's dead. Bandito is officially dead. What are we doing here? And then he and Commander try to do like convoluted moves. They're trying to do like a cool lucha things, but it's not working for whatever reason, right? The thing where I guess Commander was supposed to like do like a tornado Hurricane Rana spot, but instead climb up onto Bandito's shoulders. But that was it was a lot awkward. And then on the shoulders, Bandito comes out and Commander's supposed, I guess, to fly off of Bandito's shoulders to everyone on the floor. But something happened. There was a miscue and ended up, Commander just ended up falling to the floor. Like it was a mess early on. And, I think it's the kind of thing that it was really hard to come back from. I thought Blake Christian was the MVP of this match. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he was extremely good in this one here. His shit was landing. Everything he did made sense. Blake Christian's another guy that sometimes overshoots what he tries to do, right? But I think he's refined his offense to be like, okay, the stuff that hits like 50-50, I'm just going to push that away. Like when he does his moonsault into the slop drop, right? The acai moonsault to the slop drop. Or what is it, a dive? He dives to the floor, and then instead of landing on the guy, he grabs him in a slop drop, and in a reverse face lock, and then slop drops him. I'm kind of like, okay, sure. Whenever that happens, it works like 50% of the time. He's sort of moved away from that. He's focusing a lot more on things that he's really good at. That he knows he's able to nail. And I think he's benefited from that. I think Blake Christian is one of these guys that's benefited tremendously from being in Ring of Honor. I think there's something more there than there has been for a long time in his career. I think he's picked up a lot of confidence and whatnot. The vanilla baby stuff is, it borders, it's like that fine line between hateable and outright cringe, and it's just like at that spot where it could fall into just being outright cringe and not working anymore, but it suits him for now. Anyway, this ends with Hechicero and Bandito going at it, and this was the least inspired encounter that we've had between the two this year, and they've fought each other a couple of times in some great matches, some great encounters, and this was absolutely the least inspired. Look, I'm going to give this, what did I give this? I lost my page. Yeah, a 3.25 star because I thought there was a lot of work. I thought guys like Blake Christian worked really hard in this. And you know what? Sammy Guevara got eliminated really easily. He got thrown out really, really easily without putting any effort. So whatever he was saving from the tag team match that whatever he was saving, he didn't put it on display here. He just had an easy night at the office, essentially. Blake Christian absolutely shined in this match. There you go. As far as that match goes. Then we get a backstage segment with Mercedes Moné getting confronted by Layla Gray. And this is all going to end up being settled in a TBS title match on Collision between the two. By the time you're listening to this, the match has probably aired. Not only has it probably been aired, it has been aired, unquestionably. There's no way you're watching this before that show has been aired. I know. I just know. I'm prescient. But you can tell that Mercedes Moné is upset. She's hyperventilating. She's not enjoying the fact that she lost a title. Maybe the downfall of Mercedes Moné has happened and she's going to start dropping titles right and left. And she's going to be like, she's going to be shook and insecure and so on and so forth. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. I don't think she's dropping the TBS title to Layla Gray. I don't think. But then again, I didn't think Red Velvet was going to win her title back on this show. So goes to show you what the fuck I know. And finally, we had the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship in the main event. Athena successfully retained once again against Persephone. Now, earlier this week on stream, I previewed tonight the Ring of Honor Final Battle proceedings. And when I got into this match, I was like, look, when I got to previewing this match, I said, the best thing that could happen in this match, and I'm paraphrasing, right? But this is essentially what I said. The best thing that could happen in this match is if it's a sub 20-minute match, maybe around like the 15-minute mark, where everyone gets their shit in and it looks good and it doesn't turn into another 20+ Athena epic where there's a lot of dead space and you're supposed to think that it's this great match because of its length and would probably help Persephone at the same time, get her power stuff in and whatnot. And I was dreading that it would be a 20+ minute Athena epic. And that's exactly what we got. A 20+ minute epic Athena match, and it's exactly how I had pictured it in my head. It's exactly how I thought it was going to go down, only with more fucking facial expressions. And that I was a little taken aback by. The amount of near pinfalls with both Persephone and Athena doing, soy faces and, gritting their teeth and biting down on their fingers when the other person would kick out of a pin attempt. I could not believe at the frequency this was happening. I was mortified. Truly. I was like, what are they doing? Stop it. Stop. And I was shocked at how much Persephone was doing this. Was she told, like, this is what you have to do on American television? Because she's not this bad in Arena Mexico. Trust me. In Arena Mexico, you don't, like, it's just, you move, you someone kicks out, you get back on it, and you just keep pushing and pushing, and at some point you go, especially towards the end, in lucha, then the luchadors start putting their hands on their heads, and they're like, what the fuck do I have to do to put this guy away, kind of thing. But it's usually in the final stretch of a match, not like throughout the whole entire fucking thing. I will say that Athena's worst instincts were less on display here. And I don't know if it's because she came out with the Demon Slayer cosplay and that made her happy, where she didn't feel like she had to play around as much, but she did do her little mid-match, monologue and whatnot. But she wasn't as heavy-handed as she can be sometimes, and I appreciate that. But like this near 30-minute match could have been an exciting 15-minute match, and I would have been completely okay with that. It's the same arguments. It's the same argument I have with the. It's the same argument I have in regards to people who complain about the length of the Hollywood ending match at Revolution earlier this year. It's where people are like, it should have been longer. And I'm like, why should it have been longer? This was a perfect match. This is a match of the year. This is a match of the year that you just want. Why would you want it longer? It did everything it had to do, and it's a lot of time, and then some. It was a perfectly paced, executed match. But we have this perception, oftentimes in pro wrestling, that longer means better. That if that a long match is synonymous with a big time quality match, and that is more often than not actually not the case. And I kind of feel like that this all is still leftovers from the late 2010 era of New Japan Pro Wrestling, where every main event in New Japan was a 35 minute plus affair, where people then were like, oh, Jesus Christ, not another 35-minute Jay White main event, right? Kind of thing. Because we couldn't have under 35 minutes. Now, is this an idea, and you can apply this same logic to Ring of Honor. Is this an idea where you want to give the impression to the audience that they got their money's worth because they got a big, long, extended main event? Maybe. But then it's up to the wrestlers to really occupy that space. And while the match was good, I can't say that this was a bad match, and I will not say this was a bad match because these are two good wrestlers. I think that the length did them a disservice, and I think that they didn't wrestle to that variable, or it's not a variable at that point, to that criteria that they had established, that it was going to go over 25 minutes, that it was going to go nearly 30. I think the pacing here was completely off when they did do moves. Like, here's the thing, big physical moves, tremendous stuff. Both women shining, especially Persephone getting opportunities to show off how strong of a woman she is, how strong of a wrestler she is. That was fantastic. But we had to drag things out. You could feel like we were going for the big epic. And I don't think that the match, if you're doing the epic, the final gear that you clutch into has to raise to levels where you're like, this, all right, I get it. This is where we were going. But we never got to that point. And there's drama to all of it all. They're transitioning out of a Razor's Edge attempt by Persephone, and they're into a leg submission. Well, the Koji clutch, essentially, right? And that ruled. That was actually a great transition. Like, there's some really good stuff here. Near falls and back and forth. The Koji clutch returns. Then Persephone's throwing Northern Light suplexes and a sack of shit. And she hits a big spear. Like that, there was a stretch there that was really, really exciting. And then she goes for the Razor's Edge. Athena is able to kick out of the move when she gets pinned. And then, of course, Persephone is doing soy faces to the camera. And then Athena does an incredible German suplex off of the turnbuckle. Persephone landed really high on her shoulder. It was a great bump. It was very, very gnarly. And then the O-face for the win. I'm like, oh, okay, we're done. Just as you're kind of feeling where, all right, we're building steam. We're going real hard. We're just going to go crazier and crazier. But no, it's just, all right, Athena wins again. It's okay. All right. It's like, and the thing is that, I'm sitting here kind of poo-pooing on this match, but I'm going to give it 3 3/4 stars because I thought it was strong. I thought it was a strong, well put together match, but I I thought it was long and I got lost in it. And I feel like I could have given it, I could feel stronger about the match. I could have liked it more, but we had to do the 20-minute plus Athena epic, and it just didn't connect. Gotta tell you one thing though, Athena is looking really good these days. Like physically, tremendous. Like she's been going through, I've noticed it when she showed up on Dynamite and whatnot, for her title matches against Tony and then the tournament. I had pointed it out. I was like, okay, Athena is like she's going through a transformation right now. She's looking great. She looked even better here. Like good for her. Like she's really, really looking tremendous. There's a lot of positives here, but it's just like I wish I could love Athena as much as other people do, but because I think she's a very good pro wrestler, right? And what she did here was a very good pro wrestling match. But people are thinking like they're calling this great. They're going, cuckoo crazy for it. They're saying it, but it's like, and yes, it was physical, but it wasn't. I can't call this a great match. Like 8.47 on Cage Match right now as I'm recording this. That I think it's too high. It's a low 8, upper 7 out of 10 match. That's where it belongs, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that one of the things that would benefit from Athena in these types of circumstances is shorter matches. Just shorter, faster paced matches would be a huge benefit. You shave off half of this match and you've got yourself a great main event. I sincerely believe that. And the fucking soy faces that they do to the camera. Jesus Christ. I don't know if Persephone was told to do this, but it is, or if she's watching NXT, or if this was an audition to go on to NXT. But it was really, really annoying. Anyway, but nonetheless, a very good performance by both these ladies and a good, solid, very good main event. Nonetheless, like it sounds like I hated it, but it's just like I see so many flaws that keep me from liking it more. That's what bothers me. That's why I'm like, yeah, but the fucking this and the fucking that and the length and the fucking faces and too long. They all eventually chip away. Imagine if they fixed all of that. Imagine with all that criticism, I still give it 3 3/4 star. So imagine if they had fixed all of that, how great of a match we would have had. There you have it. That's my Ring of Honor Final Battle 2025 review. A good show, a good show with 2 truly great matches on this card, and that you should seek out: Mercedes Moné versus Red Velvet, and the 30-minute Iron Man match between Lee Moriarty and Nigel McGuinness. And everything else, look, I don't think you'll be bored if you watch this match. I think there might be a section of the show where you're kind of like, okay, what's happening kind of thing. But nothing outrageously bad. Nothing like, to pull your hair out of your head. A good show, but an unremarkable show. Yeah.